Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 11 of my Android development tutorial. In this part of the tutorial, I'm going to continue showing you how to make an address app using Android and SQLite. And if you missed the previous part, I provide a link to the entire Android development tutorial playlist in the upper right-hand corner. And specifically what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the interface that is going to allow us to add new contacts and edit contacts. And then I'm going to jump into SQLite 3 and show you the queries that we are then going to have to create in later code to make the address app work. So I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Okay, so here I am in Eclipse just like before, and here is my address book app over here. And I'm going to be going into, not source this time, but just like before, into the resource folder. And then I'm going to come down here inside of layout, and I'm going to create two new layouts. So I'm just going to right click on that, come over to new, and then come down here and look for Android XML file and create that. And this guy I am going to call add new contact, and this is going to be a table layout just like before. So I'm just going to select that and then come down here and click on finish. And here is all the code for my table layout. And I'm going to be doing a lot of cutting and pasting here just to save some time. Alright, so let's go into the graphical layout. And remember, we're basically going to store first name, last name, phone number, email address, home address, and an ID. So inside of this guy, I'm going to come down here inside of layouts and get a table row and drag it over here, drop it in. And then inside of my table row, I'm going to have a text view first off. So to get that, I'm going to come up here into form widgets and get a text view and just drag it over here and drop it in there. And then I'm just going to jump into the code and actually start writing some of this stuff. So here is the text view that I just created, and there's the table row. And like I said before, I normally just leave the table row as just a junk value, but the text views I normally give good names. That's completely up to you. I'm not saying my way is the right way, I'm just saying that's what I do. So I'm going to call this add contact text view. I'm going to have the width, like I often do, match my parent that surrounds it, which is going to be my table row, so that I fill up the whole entire screen. And then to save some time, I'm going to jump back over into the graphical layout. I'm going to make sure that my text view is selected, which it is. And I'll come over here and set a couple different things down inside of here. Now, specifically, what I want to be able to change is the padding. Here's padding right here. And just like before, I'm just going to click on that and then come in here to padding 5dp and hit OK. So there we got it. Everything lined up a little bit better, so that looks nice. Now, because I created the strings before in my strings.xml file, I'm going to use the add contact guy that I have right here. So I'm just going to jump back into add new contact and then come over here inside of text, click on this, and then I'm going to come into add contact. And now you can see add contact is there. Then what I'm going to do is go over into activity main.xml, and I'm going to copy this guy right here where it changes the text appearance to large. I'm going to use that again. So just come back inside of here. I'm going to jump down inside the XML for this guy and paste that in there. And then the final thing I'm going to do is just go Android text color is equal to FFF, and there we are, that's done. Whoops, I don't need that. Okay, so there we go. We got our text view all set up. And for my table row, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go Android background is equal to hash symbol, and this is going to be black. File save. If we bounce out here, you can now see add contact is in there, and it looks really nice. Next thing we need to do is what we're going to be copying and pasting a whole bunch of times. We're going to be adding a whole bunch of table rows. So again, just click on layouts just like we did before. Come down here, get table row, drag that table row in there. And then inside of each one of these table rows, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a text view and an edit text area. So form widgets again, grab a text view, drag it in there. And then I'm also going to need an editable text area. So that's going to be in text fields. And I'm just going to grab one of these guys, drag it over here, and then throw it in here next to the text view. And there we are. Well, now that's kind of a mess, if you can see that before. If I select this, see how it's outside of this box, so I gotta fix that. And there's text view, and everything looks messy, so I'm gonna clean it up. So to do that, I'm gonna jump back into the XML, and here is table row, and I'm just gonna let everything be. Well, no, I'm not. I'm gonna change this to match parent. Let's make sure it stretches, and let's look up here to make sure. Yep, we're also gonna have to change this to match parent. I'm just gonna copy and paste this, and there it is. And then come back down inside of here. Now with these guys, I'm going to use names that have some meaning to them because I think they're important. So inside of here, just like before, I'm going to go first, name, text view, wrap content, perfectly fine. Then I'm going to get my layout weight and change that to 1 so that everything lines up a little bit better. And I'm just going to copy and paste some stuff here. So I'm just going to jump over into activity main and paste this inside of here. I'm also going to want to change my padding on this guy. So I'm just going to come up here and copy this, come back down inside of here, throw in some information about padding. And then I want to use the first name from the strings.xml file just like I had before. So jump out of here, that's selected. Come over here into text, click on that. This is going to open up, look for first name, there it is. And there we go, now we have first name inside of there. Jump back over here, now I have to work on the editable text area. And this guy, I'm just going to name it first name, like that. Wrap content, wrap content. I'm also going to have the layout weight be equal to 1 so that straightens out everything and gives the editable text area exactly the same amount of size as the text view itself. And I'm also going to come in here and give this a little bit of padding. Just come in there, drop that in there. And then the final thing I want to do is actually make sure that it looks at this as text from an actual person's name. To do that, graphical layout, it's already selected. Come down over here where it says input type. And all the code and everything I type here is available in the link in the description. And then here I'm going to look for person's name, and there it is, text person's name. So select that and hit OK. And there we go. Now we got that row all set up. And the good thing here, well, another thing I want to do, go in here, and I'm also going to come in here and to make sure that it all automatically did it for me. Request focus. So the cursor, whenever they open the app or open this part of the activity, the cursor is going to start inside of here because request focus is inside of there. Now the cool thing I'm going to be able to do now is I'm just going to copy and paste a whole bunch of these right like that. And what do I need? I need first name, I need last name, I need phone number, I need email address, and I need home address. So that means I need 5 of these things. Just paste that in there. So that's 3, 4, and 5. So now I'm going to have to come in here and fix all of these, but this will save me an immense amount of time. And here we are, table row. This is the first one. There's the table row 2. That's perfectly fine. And then whenever I get into this, I'm going to change this to table row 3. Going to change this to table row 4. Change this to table row 5. Change this to table row 6. And everything else is fine. And then I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to leave almost all this information exactly the same as before. Just going to change the names a little bit. So instead of first name, I'm going to have last name. There we go. And then change this to last name, of course. And I can also leave this as text person's name because that makes sense. Come down inside of this one. And this time we're not going to have first name, but we're going to have phone number, text view. And then I'm going to copy phone number here, put it down inside of that. And then here, I'm going to get rid of that. And so that it's treated like a phone number, I'm going to change the input type to phone. Okay, so that's cool. For this guy, we're going to call this email text view. And then this, I'm going to call it email address. Leave everything else same here. I'm going to fix these here in a second if you thought I forgot about those. And then the input type here is going to be text, email, address. I'll show you in a second where all that comes from. And then for my last one here, I'm going to have my address text view. This is going to be like a home address. Let that the same. Change this guy down here to home address. And then for this one, I'm going to let it be text. And if you want to use another one also, I'm going to say text, postal, address. So there we go, that's all set up. I'm going to save that, jump over into the graphical layout, and there you're going to see these are all first names. Well, that's perfectly fine there right now. I'm going to get rid of this one though. To do that, come into text over here again, click on that, and then look for last name that we set up before, and that's fixed. Come in here where it says first name again, come over here again, click on text, and then this one is going to be phone number, which is right there. So got that selected. Come down here. This is going to be email address. So just text again and then look for email address, and there it is. Now that's fixed. Click on this one and jump over into text again. And this last one is going to be home address, which is right there. Okay, got all those set up. Pretty cool. Then for the final thing, I'm going to have another table row, but this one is going to contain a button. And this button is going to add the contact to our database. So come in here again, we're going to come down to layouts, click on that, come over here where it says table row, grab table row, throw it down inside of there. And then I'm going to come up here again, form widgets, there's a big giant button, grab that. There's after address, throw it in there, hopefully it goes in, yes. And you can see it's left justified and looks terrible. I'm going to make it fill out the entire screen. But before I do that, I'm going to select it, click on text, you know what that is. Click on save data, now it's going to say save on it. Jump over into the XML, scroll to the bottom of the screen, and I'm going to call this guy right here add button, and there we are. In this table row that we have here, I'm going to say match parent again, just like before. I'm doing my best to show patterns, and I pretty much do that anyway. We also want to capture a click event, and if a click event occurs on this button, we want a certain method to be called, and it hasn't been created yet, but when it is, it's going to be called add new contact, and there that is. And then the layout weight on this, I'm going to set that to 1 so that it completely fills the box, and there that is. So there you are. I created that whole thing, graphical layout, and there you can see there is the entire thing. And now what I'm going to do is basically I am going to want to be able to edit my contacts, and I'm going to use almost exactly the same thing that I used for the add contact. The only real difference is going to be 2 new buttons. So, pretty simple. So I'm basically just going to copy this whole entire thing. Come up here after table row and just go the whole way through the whole entire thing, copy it all. And then I'm going to go over into layout again. Going to right click new, create a new one of these. Come down here, Android XML file. And then inside of this, I'm going to call this edit contact.xml. This is going to be a table layout again. There's table layout, finish. And there that guy is. Just jump into this one and then paste everything in there. Save that guy, bounce over here again, and you can see it's exactly the same, just like the old guy, but I don't want it that way. This guy, for one, I want to change this into edit instead of add contact, and you know what I got to do. I come over here, click on text, and then this is going to be edit contact title. That's what I called it, and it says edit contact. That's good. Everything else looks pretty good, actually. Jump back into the XML. Because I copy and pasted everything, the style is going to be really good. I'm going to change this into edit contact text view. Everything else about this is pretty good. Down inside of this, I'm actually going to leave all of this exactly the same. Don't see any reason to change it. And pretty much the only thing that will change inside of this guy is going to be this button that we have down here. So I'm actually going to copy the button that we have, because we're going to have 2 buttons now, because it's going to allow us to both delete contacts as well as edit them. Change the name. So I'm going to call this guy edit button, and if something's changed in regards to the contact, it's going to make that change. On the click, I'm going to call a method called edit contact. The next one down here is going to be changed to delete button, and whenever this is clicked on, a method called remove contact is going to be called. And the only other thing I need to do is change the name that shows up in the button. So I'm going to click on this. This is going to be edit. Click on text, come in here, and you can see right there, edit button. Now it says edit. Click on this guy, click on text, and this is going to be save data. And there that is. Back into this. Layout weight is 1, layout weight is 1, and everything there is all set up. So I might come back to this later on because some of you guys have requested that I add things like search bars and things like that. But for now, I'm going to jump over into SQLite, and we're going to review here real quickly the types of queries we're going to be issuing. Alright, so what types of things are we going to have here? Well, the very first thing I'm going to do is actually go and open up SQLite, and I'm going to call this address book.db, and there that is. Now basically what we're going to have inside of this is we're going to have a first name, so we're going to have to create that guy. And actually, let's just come in here. First name, last name, phone number, email, address, home, address, and then finally ID, which ID showed up in 2 separate places. So now what I got to do is actually create that table, and to do so, and I'm actually going to create these tables and so forth in my code, but I wanted to review what it actually looks like in SQLite before I did that. So this is what we're going to be creating later on in the tutorial. So I'm going to create a table called contact, and it's going to have an ID, which is going to be an integer. And if you didn't watch my SQLite tutorial, you might want to check that out. Again, it's in the Android playlist. And I'm going to have this auto increment for me so that I don't have to mess around with adding numbers or knowing what numbers to add for the ID. First name, we're going to have this be text because, like I said in the SQLite tutorial, SQLite really isn't very good in regards to having complex data types. So, and then we're going to have phone number, and I'm not putting not null and things like that. I'm just going to keep this nice and simple. Email address also, and home address, which is also going to be text. Close that off, and there we go. I created my table, and if I go tables, you can see contact shows up inside of there. So I'm going to clear my scroll back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, inside of a text editor, write exactly what we're going to have to do whenever we want to insert a new contact. So insert into contact. And I'm just doing this so it'll be easier to copy and paste. So we're going to have first name, last name, phone number, email address, home address, like that. And then we're going to have values, and then I'm going to throw in a bunch of them. So let's just say Sally Smith, and let's say her phone number is 412-555-1212, and let's say she's at sally@aol.com, and let's say she lives at 123 Main Street, Ida, Iowa. And I'm going to copy this, jump over here in SQLite, paste that in there, and there we created that. And then I can jump in here and create a couple more of them. Just to keep this very simple, I'm just going to change this to Paul, and I'm going to say 124, and then I'm going to change this to a 2, and select all, copy, paste, there's another one, and then this one I'm going to just change his last name to Long. I don't know, let's just have them be the same. Jump back in here, paste that in there, and then if we do like a select all from contact, you can see there's all those. And if I want to clear the scroll back on this separator, let's say I just want to have spaces between these, that's how we do that. And there you can see they're a little bit better organized, even though everybody has the same email, but don't worry about that. And then what I need to do, of course, I'm going to have to provide a way to update contacts, and I'm going to have to write this in my code as well whenever I create it. So for example, if we want to change the phone number inside of contact for a person that has the ID of 1, I can just come in here and let's just say 412-555-5555. That's a new number. And of course I can also come in here and change numerous things, like let's say that Sally moves, marries somebody with last name Todd, there that is, and then I'm going to have to say where ID is equal to 1. Did all that right, and there you can see she's now Sally Todd. So that's another query I'm going to need. Another thing I'm going to need is the ability to delete a person, because I have delete inside of there as well. So I'm just checking basically to make sure that I know how to use SQL right, so that I don't mess up my program because of something silly that I could have checked ahead of time. And there, Sally should now be gone, and she is. And then I'm also going to have a way to output the information. In the last tutorial, I said that I was going to need an ID, I was going to need a last name, and then I'm going to need a first name. And that's going to come from contact. And I want all of them, so I'm not going to put any constraints inside of there, but I want them in order. So I'm going to say order by last name. Boom, and there it is. And then the final thing I might want to do is also be able to drop the table altogether, delete it, and to do that, I'm going to say drop table if exists, spell it right, contact. And there we go. And if I type in tables, nothing shows up. So there is a ton more on our way to creating an address application inside of Android. Please leave your questions or comments below. Otherwise, till next time.